Hi everyone, this is Dr. Susan Brown, Director of the Center for Better Bones. Today I'm going to chat with you a few minutes about digestion and give you tips to enhance digestive strength during the winter. I'm also pleased to announce that we have a new project. That project is a project of exercises that my assistant Gina Deli gives every single week on patreon.com. This is a 30 to 45 minute video we're doing on exercises to build bone. Actually, we're putting lots of our new information on exercise on this Patreon channel, so you might check it out. On Monday, she's doing a 30 to 45 minute video there, actual leading you through exercises. And then on Tuesday, I'm going to give a discussion on Facebook related, just some topics, some hints, some tips you can use about that same general area that Gina has talked about on Monday. So let's get started. Let's talk about digestion. You know, digestion is so important. We tend to forget that it's the hub of all our existence in a sense. It's how we create the energy we need, how we utilize the food to produce all that we have to produce in our physical body. And so many people suffer indigestion. 10 million people have malabsorption, if not many more have great digestive problems. It is estimated that 60 to 7 million people have one or another form of digestion diseases. Irritable bowel alone, it really impacts probably 45 million people. And much of the world's population has experiencing irritable bowel, probably 10 to 15%. It's much more common. The digestive disorders are more common amongst women, and that's really interesting. And we think it's probably because digestion is very related to the nervous system. Anyway, many, many billions of dollars are spent on digestion, and I bet many of you there, and actually I myself, constantly am in the search to have more perfected digestion, less gas, less bloating, less irregular stools, and a better utilization of nutrients. So what I want to give you today are just a few tips on how to build digestive strength. But the first thing I want to relate is, you know, I'm an anthropologist and I've had the opportunity to study in many cultures. This is a picture of a Dominican village in the Dominican Republic, and that's actually, I did my dissertation in a village just like this. And it was very interesting because though these people were poor peasants, they didn't have much education, but they really understood the value of digestion. Like when we sat down to eat, they would always say that the el que come, come. That means the person who eats, eats. And you shouldn't be talking, you shouldn't be arguing, you shouldn't be carrying on. In fact, they would frequently have the children eat separately from the adults so the adults could eat in peace. That we don't have such a recognition of the importance of eating in a peaceful environment. And in fact, another antidote of that same line was I was in Los Angeles once, driving through Chinatown, and I got a flat tire, so I asked this mechanic to fix my tire. He happened to be a Chinese mechanic, and I said to him, I was in Chinatown looking for a good Chinese doctor to do Chinese herbs and acupuncture, and I said to this man, I said, hey, do you know where I can find a good Chinese herbalist? And this man laughed, this Chinese man said, you got to be kidding. You Americans, you want to use Chinese medicine to get better, and yet you think you're going to have good health driving down the street chomping on a hamburger. And his point was, he's seen people eating in the car. He couldn't imagine that we would do that and still be interested in health, because those cultures naturally understand that how we eat is extremely important, maybe as important as what we eat. So one of the tips we're going to see is really eating in a peaceful place, paying good attention to the food. In fact, I have written 10 steps to stronger digestion, which you can link to. You can see it on the website, and this has helped thousands of people build their digestive strength. One step is, of course, to eat in a peaceful place, to chew the food very carefully, to actually pay attention to what you're eating. Plus, it's much more enjoyable if you actually taste the food. And it also includes the suggestion that you eat hot and cooked food. Actually, cooked food is much easier to digest than raw food, particularly in these cold climates. We want to if we take in hot food, it's much less stressful for the body. if you think about it, your digestion, your stomach is like a fire. It has to burn, it has to cook that food. If the food is already cooked, you don't spend so much energy cooking the food in your stomach. And certainly if you look at ancient cultures like traditional China, traditional India, you see very little raw food because they understood that cooked food is much easier to digest and we can take more nutrients out of it. Even though we Americans like raw food, and it may be fine in the summer, but in the winter you definitely want cooked food. In fact, you know, I was reading a text from a biologist at Harvard who really explained that when human beings managed to capture fire and cook food, they could evolve much more because they were able to maintain and gain many more nutrients from that cooked food. So raw food may be fine in the summer. In the winter, you want hot and cooked food. And you always want to eat in a peaceful place. If you have a digestive concern, check out the 10 steps to stronger digestion. It's some very simple tips. Another tip is before the meal, we want to stimulate digestion, and in many cases we want to increase hydrochloric acid. And so one nice remedy or one nice appetizer is to have a tablespoon of apple cider vinegar with maybe a teaspoon of honey and put that in some hot water. That makes a nice cocktail. If you shake it up, it's actually a nice frothy cocktail that helps to stimulate digestion. Another way to do that is to drink herbal bitters, like bitters of Angostura and different herbal bitter compounds you can buy. Put that in a little water, and that's a tonic that stimulates appetite and increases hydrochloric acid. The other thing is that traditional habit of having a broth or a soup to begin the meal. That actually also stimulates the digestive juices and makes it easier to digest the food that comes after the broth. The during the meal tips, of course, as I mentioned, chew food thoroughly. The suggestion is actually 30 chews per bite. I know in my case that's very hard, but I try to think about eating in a peaceful, slow way, chewing the food carefully. We have pints of saliva that we produce every day, and that, of course, digestion begins in the mouth with the saliva. So practice chewing the food, and that involves mindfulness. You might even be surprised to pay attention to the taste of the food and say, wow, I forgot what an orange tastes like, or how sweet this bread is. So pay attention for the fun of it to what does the food taste like. Eat in a peaceful place. You want to be in the rest and digest mode. You know, they've done research, they've sent people to restaurants, and if the music is noisy and fast, people eat quickly and they don't digest the food so well. If the music is calm and relaxed, people eat in a more peaceful way and their digestion is more successful. So try to get in a restful state before you eat, while you're eating. And as a matter of fact, I suspect this is why all around the world there's a tendency to give gratitude, to say grace before we eat, because it allows us to quiet down the body and to get ready for digestion. If you think about it, just in an innocent level, how difficult it is to take a hamburger or a cheeseburger or even a cup of broccoli and convert that into blood and bone. It's a whole complicated process, and if the body is under stress, it's going to not digest food so well. It's actually going to divert energy from digestion to the fight or flight response. So we want to get in the rest and digest parasympathetic mode when we eat, before we eat, and during the meal. So pay attention to stress and find a peaceful place to eat. Occasionally that might mean eating in a quiet place all by yourself if you have a lot going on in the household. After the meal, there's a couple interesting tips we gain from around the world. One of them, of course, is the Ayurvedic custom of stopping before you're totally full. And how many have noticed, you know, we're eating dinner, the phone rings, we get up, we answer the phone. When we come back, we're no longer hungry. We notice we're satisfied enough. We always want to leave a little room in the stomach. The other one is sipping hot water. Again, this is an Ayurvedic technique, which is very surprisingly successful. I heard Deepak Chopra once say, if you sip a hot cup of water after the meal for 2 weeks, you'll do it every day because it feels very good. You know, talking about Ayurveda, we're gonna focus a lot on the traditional medicine of Ayurveda, this ancient Indian medicine, as we go along this next year, because it is a supreme science of nutrition. I'll talk to you a bit more about what we're going to be doing with Ayurveda in just a second, but sipping hot water after the meal, I challenge you to try it and let me know if it doesn't help your digestion. Whenever I do it, people say, oh, my grandmother used to do that. Well, it's true. The older people had that awareness that a simple thing like hot water, especially if you boil the hot water, because actually boiling the water makes it more digestible. You have that, very soothing. And the Chinese were also very fond of traditional Chinese culture. And what they say, 100 steps after every meal, 100 years of life. That's the idea that some very moderate exercise after the meal can help. And in fact, in this week's session of the Exercise Evolution, in this session that's on patreon.com, Gina is going to talk about digestion. She talks about digestion and in this case, yoga postures and stretches that can help enhance digestion. So, take care of your digestion. Take care of your digestion this winter. Get that hot and cooked food. Let me know if you don't feel better. I guarantee you'll notice less gas, less bloating, less indigestion as you go through the winter, and you'll stay warmer. And to say, I've been mentioning Ayurveda, what we've decided this year is our retreat, our Love Your Bones, Love Your Life retreat in 2019, in the spring of 2019, is going to be in Pennsylvania, and it's going to be at a Ayurvedic retreat center. So if you're interested in learning more about Ayurvedic medicine, or you're interested in a spring detox with us, come join us in Honesdale in May. It's been my pleasure to talk with you today. Remember, I'll be coming every Tuesday with tips. Gina will be coming every Monday to Patreon with half an hour, 40 minutes of exercises for you all. In the meantime, stay strong. Enjoy the week.